Silent in the Calixian extent are worlds from which the Omnissiah has withdrawn his blessings. They trail their parent stars like errant children, struck dumb and bloodied. Their ruins are profound, their catacombs endless, their savages sorrowful. For these wards of the Imperium of Mankind have paid a great and terrible price for the tech heresy of their forebears. The Imperium of Man faces foes of which many were created from its own mistakes. Zealous angels, faithless apostates, and untold thralls of forces from beyond the Pale. Among such traitors and malcontents, one stands as a testament of the failings of logic rather than emotional turmoil. For today, we shall elucidate the dark mirror of the Adepts of Mars, a cult steeped in technological advancement with no care for restraint, mercy, or boundaries. The scions of the so-called true Omnissiah, the Dark Mechanicum. With the dawn of the 30th millennium, the Master of Mankind began to unite the desperate fragments of humanity, the far reaches of the galaxy teeming with hostile life forms, intent only to destroy. The birth scream of the Great Rift as a result of the Eldar's folly, allowing for warp travel once more. In order to embark with armies across the galaxy, the Emperor required the aid of technologists capable of ferrying his forces across the Sea of Souls. Establishing a compact with the Mechanicum of Mars during 739.M30, the tech priest looked upon the visage of the Emperor and saw in him the grace of the Omnissiah. His armies paving the way in blood and toil to unite the many Forge worlds stranded far from Terra's light. With ships aplenty crafted within the orbital shipyards of Mars's Ring of Iron, mankind reclaimed their position as the inheritors of the stars, the Mechanicum retaining their autonomy as allies to the Imperium's glory, rather than become subsumed by it. Yet regardless of the gains made by the Master of Mankind, dissent began to spread within the Martian priesthood, seeing the Emperor as an enslaver of the cult Mechanicus and sowing the seeds of resentment to grow. Rising against the conceited, false god of the Omnissiah with the outbreak of the Horus Heresy, after 2 centuries of service, the Fabricator General of Mars, Kelbor Hal, broke his oath to the Master of Mankind and declared the Forge City of Olympus Mons exempt from the Imperium's rule. Appointed as the most senior tech priest due to his accomplishments discovering untold secrets of humanity's lost technological pedigree, with the Mechanicum's production quotas exceeding all prior records under Kelbor Hal's reign, many sided with his rebellion. Several legions of the Collegia Titanica siding with the rebels as word reached Kelbor Hal of Horus Lupercal's perfidy, with assurances that his new Mechanicum would rise uncontested within their domains, with the War Master withdrawing all non-Martians from every Forge world following the Emperor's usurpation. Providing a bounty of ancient standard template constructs into the bargain as a gesture of goodwill, with the assertions that the new Mechanicum would be permitted to research forbidden, abominable intelligences, Kelbor Hal pledged fealty to the War Master. Unlocking the vaults of Moravec using protocol codes provided by the War Master's envoy, Regulus, with the opening of the cache of Chaos-corrupted technologies, a virulent scrap code ran amok across the Red Planet. Every archive, cogitator, and network besieged by the technovirus as the renegades within the Mechanicum's ranks commit assassinations and sabotage missions, civil war erupted upon Mars. The rise of the Dark Mechanicum had begun, the death of Technomagi Coriel Zeph silencing dissent from the influential apostate as loyal Mechanicum personnel rallied to defend the Magma City. The Schism of Mars requiring the Red Planet to be quarantined by the Imperium for the remainder of the Horus Heresy, ensuring the defection of Forge worlds such as Sarum, Cyclofraith, and Styges 7. Yet for all their deference to the War Master's honeyed words, the traitor rebellion nonetheless failed to dethrone the Emperor. The Dark Mechanicum declared heretics by the cult Mechanicus as they scurried into the dark corners of galactic space. Pledged to serve the ruinous powers of chaos in exchange for fell knowledge, regardless of the traitor legion's diminishment, many would be renewed of purpose and require tech savants to tend to their war gear in the millennia to come. The Dark Mechanicum offering their services in exchange for labor thralls, experiment hosts, and rare technologies. In their eyes, these renegades see themselves as the true worshippers of the Omnissiah, freed from the lies of the Emperor and his ethical constraints. Sworn to destroy the Master of Mankind due to his standing as a false prophet, the blasphemies of the new Mechanicum continue to push the boundaries of technological innovations at the cost of their immortal souls and the suffering of billions. Merciless, resourceful, and inflicting relentless cruelty to achieve their goals, These renegades are a stain upon the Mechanicus' reputation. For should the Dark Mechanicum have been destroyed, the traitor legions would doubtless be rudderless, lost within the void of space. Responsible for myriad techno-atrocities across the stars as a result of their experimentation, Sol's were torn to pieces by obliterators, the sonic weapons of the Third Legion's Cacophony, or detritus of the Spider. Every great weapon of the archenemy can be traced back to the Dark Mechanicum. Residing within the Eye of Terror, wherein their Hellforges produce weapons which fuel the insatiable bloodlust of the Chaos Legions, the stamp of their handiwork can be found on weapons retrieved from every Black Crusade and Chaos Incursion. Thriving within the lawless, outland zones of space, such as the halo stars of the Coronus Expanse, the influence of the heretics spans the length and breadth of the galaxy, hiding their presence from both inquisitorial interlopers and Mechanicus explorators. Each cult of the new Mechanicum created to pursue objectives which shall burgeon their understanding of forbidden technology. While some have forever been expunged from Mechanicus records, many notable exceptions still harry the stars. The Apostles of the Blind King, established during 550.M37, during the Ecclusiad War waged by the Dark Hunters chapter of Space Marines, these quasi-nihilistic renegades saw organic human life as an affront to the machine god's glory, and thus sought to purge it wherever they roamed. Having secured Dark Age of technologies which enabled them to turn living suns into calamitous supernovas, entire constellations lost their luster as sections of the Segmentum Obscurus were snuffed of their light. Navigator Joya Macron, locating their base of operations within a fold of warp space, their titular Archmagos, the Blind King, though a native of Mars, joined the missionary order of the Collegia Titanicus Divisio Mandati and turned their temple spacecraft into a shrine to his own glory. Surrounded by Emperor-class Titans and an army of ground forces within his headquarters, the Emperor-class battleship Dominus Astra fired volleys of lance batteries which slew the Blind King, cutting off the cult's warp prescience and enabling their extermination. The cult of the Children of Rhine, established to serve the whims of Nomen Rhine. The creations of the arch-heretic, the so-called False Men, are said to bring new bounties of tech patterns and messages to such zealots, spurring them to new heights of worship. The Empiric Engineers, blighting the Calixus sector of the Segmentum Obscurus, their mastery of warp manipulation devices allows the cult to fold such immaterial energies in on themselves, destroying wayward demons which defy their command. Creating enormous warp engines within their hidden domains, which allow such heretics to infuse warp energies into machinery using null field generators. Among their most infamous experiments is that of the Immateria Ward. Foul concoctions which harness machine spirit cogitation cores to shield them from the warp's corrosive energies. The exchange of such technologies are highly prized by warbands of chaos and thus bought at a high price. Hunted relentlessly by the Auxilia Myrmidon Hunter cohorts of the Mechanicus, any court using an Immateria Ward are executed on contact by such tech priests or interrogated by Magos militants for information of the cult's whereabouts. The Logicians cult, likewise harrying the Calixus and Ixanayad sectors for many years, these scions of the banned text titled In Defense of the Future, A Logical Discourse, seek to advance humanity by the acquisition of technology in order to overthrow the High Lords of Terror and their servants of the Adeptus Ministorum. At odds with the scrutiny of the Mechanicus of Mars in their efforts to empower mankind to a standing similar to that experienced during the Dark Age of technology, their alliances with mercantile houses and human nobles are achieved due to the lack of demonic interlopers within their ranks. The Malgrisian heretics, following in the footsteps of their renegade Magos, Umbra Malgris, within the Malfian subsector. During the 41st millennium, the majority of the cult met their end, facing an inquisitorial Mechanicus purgation force. What little remains of their following, either forming their own bands of heretics or suffering at the hands of Mechanicus tech priests who interrogate them for insight of their dealings. Foundries of Port Wrath have since been corrupted by such survivors, using bioforging practices to achieve greater production quotas from their laborers. Each noble grown fat off the toil of the Malgrisian heretics, sharing their resources with other such greedy individuals. The cult's influence has spread across the Calixus sector, despite all efforts to stifle them. The disciples of Null, styling themselves in the image of the adept of Kelbor Hal, Sotanul. This resurgent cult of the 42nd millennium believe themselves to be the foremost of all subjects of the true Mechanicum, with their master, Demonomagus Columbari Enus, regarding itself as the first among equals. Working closely with Fabius Bile of the 3rd Legion to steal valuable genetic materials from the possession of Archmagos Belisarius Call, the Spider offered an android of chaos to be used as a vessel for the chaos demigod, Vashtor the Arcaphane, a decision which would end in their cult's culling by the Demon King. The Tech Witches of Amicus Tol, the last noteworthy cult known to Imperial records. These thralls in service to Arch-Heretic Amixis Tol are stationed on the world of Sinofia within the Calixis sector, corrupting the poor and downtrodden souls of the planet as mind rust clouds their judgment. Each neuroaugmetic of the populace has incurred damage, enabling the cult to manipulate the planet's peoples to aid in the construction of countless tech abominations. Utilizing their apostic matrix technologies to aid in their corruption, when integrated into electrostaves, such devices flood their victims' minds with fell energies, dismantling notions of faith and loyalty, no matter their fervor nor willpower. Taking great pleasure in rendering their subjects into unthinking pawns, some inquisitors have procured such tools of the cult of Amicus Tol and revel in their effectiveness, breaking the will of the enemies of the Imperium, using the tools of the archenemy against themselves. Though each demon world of the ruinous powers defies the laws of reality at a whim, for the purposes of the Dark Mechanicum, a more orderly sanctuary is required to achieve their goals. Such bastions of the new Mechanicum, known as Hellforges, these suppliers of weapons and armaments for the forces of chaos, never allow their infernal industrial complexes to cease, nor spare the lash for their indentured thralls. Suffering, the currency to which their bounties of fell craftsmanship gain potency, each heretic's lack of humanity within their hearts, replaced with demonic energies and cold machinery, aid their function as overlords of such infrastructure. Beholden to neither gods of chaos nor rulers of humanity, the Dark Mechanicum are true free agents of the Void, their inventions too valuable to squander, with chaos sorcerers, warlords and even demon princes bargaining for the favor of such dark forge worlds. Supplying Hellforges with resources, whether materials or servants, in exchange for war materiel, each smoke-suffocated planet is riddled with factories, billowing industrial-scale chimneys, and the constant churn of grinding machinery. Every inch of such hellscapes littered with the eight-pointed star and other sigils of chaos, though the new Mechanicum does not surrender their allegiance to the Omnissiah in deference to the ruinous Pantheon, they regardless draw succor from such patrons. Eschewing the Cog Mechanicum for their spike-toothed circlet of the Dark Magi, each Hellforge specializes in a particular mastery of one of the Dark Mechanicum's fell devices. The formal vassal world of Abhelong, within close proximity to the Armageddon Paramar Grand Conduit. Following its seizure by the Dark Mechanicum during 995.M41, this Hellforge specializes in forms of technopyroclasm, forcing the planet's dormant volcanoes to erupt all at once at the cost of millions of lives. Such a sacrifice gave birth to numerous demon engines from the resultant black smog, enabling the rapid subjugation of the entire populace. Dragging such unfortunate souls beneath the surface to be consumed, transformed, or worse. The Emperor's Holy Inquisition believes such a Hellforge to be among the primary production facilities of infernal engines, which are supplied to the traitor legions. Crucible Omega, believed by some Inquisitors to be a forge world predating even the Age of Strife, and never brought into the fold of the Great Crusade. Its populace worship an altar which contains a standard template construct of unknown providence. The Forge World's Hellsmiths, worshipping a Cyclopean being, such tyrants are said to be allied with renegade Phainonite Inquisitors who seek to overthrow the Emperor and ruinous powers simultaneously. Cyclofraith Holdfast, corrupted during the dark era of the Horus Heresy, purged of its dataphages by ranking Mechanicus officials. The thralls of the world within the coronate deeps of the Cyclops cluster wore robes not of Martian crimson, but of dark sable and arterial red. Known for their aggression even prior to their fall to chaos, the Cyclofrathians grew from a minor forge world to among the mightiest of the Traitor Rebellion, their offerings of vault fanes and sunken forges by the Warmaster galvanizing their resolve. Constructing Baroque engines and battle automata stockpiles to expand their military forces. Though this Hellforge has remained distant from current campaigns, regardless, their robotic cohorts are a force to be reckoned with should their conquests of expansion begin anew. Hellforge Dasos, occupied by a demon-bound invasion force of the Dark Mechanicum. During 993.M41, the Warpsmith of the Iron Warriors, Vostok Pistonhead, betrayed his allies who had secured the planet. Staging a coup, which resulted in a single night of immense bloodshed, the Warpsmith, now having secured his prize, ordered all labor to be conducted to develop demon engines to bolster his own warband. Binding such abominations to his will with use of the forbidden rite known as the Concatechism, the Chaos Sorcerers of Vostok turned the Hellforge black with smog as its industry grew the ire of the ruinous Pantheon. 4 demonic legions descending upon Dasos as reprisal for the careless abduction of the Pantheon servants. Dasos fell within a solar month, with its overlord deposed, and the surviving legions of Chaos turning on one another to begin the bloodshed anew. Hellforge Castilla, located within the Calixtus sector of space, close to the phenomena known by the Imperials as the Screaming Vortex. This bastion of the Dark Mechanicum wages war with their rivals of Forge Pollux to this day. Hellforge Pollux, likewise within proximity of the Screaming Vortex, ruled by Magos Honoris. Their battles waged not only with the Castilla, but also the Exospectres of the region, has forced the planet to fight without rest or reprieve. Idolatrex Magi of the Hellforge, spending every waking moment seeking innovations to tip the scale of war in their favor. Those unable to achieve success abandon their struggle, often evading the reprisal of Magos Honoris by embarking far from the Gloaming Worlds. Known for their construction of demon engines the galaxy over, Forge Castilla nonetheless specializes in crafting individual masterworks, which on occasion incorporate Xenos technologies into their artifice. Supplied such boons by aliens, this unlikely alliance with Xenos has allowed Hellforge Castilla to surpass many of their rivals' pedigrees and reputations. The Hellforge Irongast Foundry, swearing fealty to the blood god Khorne. This demon world, littered with spiked battlements, gun towers, and frenzied hordes, has proven nigh impervious to invasions by Imperials, Xenos, and rival Chaos forces alike. Ruled by the crazed entity known as the Overseer and its conclave of warpsmiths. While even a single soul remains on the soil of Irongast Foundry, its globe-spanning factory shall never relent in their creation of the Blood God's armaments. Producing everything from mundane chain axes to towering lords of skulls, each factory surrounded by blood-smeared runic wards binds the souls of the Blood God's thralls to their devices and supplies myriad cornate warbands with armaments. The Overseer supplying warbands such as the Skull Sworn, Brazen Beasts, and Eightsguard with their tools of war. Each warband trades precious metals, manufacturing materials, and harvested corpses to feed the insatiable hunger of Irongast Foundry. Ritlaxi, though thought lost forever, with its subsuming within the tides of the warp. This near-mythical Hellforge was last seen 8 centuries prior, and is foretold to return with the use of the Emperor's Tarot. Once pledged to the service of the Legio Mortis as among its primary resupply and arming fiefdoms. Due to the infamous reputations of this singular collegia, many efforts have been made by the Imperium to destroy the Hellforge once and for all. The rulers of Forge Samek, lacking the willpower to stand by their oaths to the Imperium, with their planet stranding by warp storms besetting the Jericho Reach, upon firing upon a Mechanicus Explorator fleet, the planet's fate was forever sealed. Subsumed into the Hadix anomaly before the purge of the populace could be enacted, their allegiance to the ruinous powers and securing of Xenos Archaeotech transformed Samek into a Hellforge which would blight the stars henceforth. Supplying dissidents within the Akara Salient to combat the forces of the Imperium, whether Chaos malformed creations or unconsecrated Archaeotech devices, their supply of weapons brokered alliances to defend the Hellforge from Imperial aggression. The Forge world of Sarum, beset by the Abhuman army known as the Brotherhood of Ruin and their Orc mercenary allies during the Great Crusade, the Imperium dispatched the forces of the World Eaters Legion to purge the world, led by their Primarch, Angron. The Golgothan slaughter, as it would be known, relieving the Mechanicus Redjack cult from their plight. Furthermore, such tech priests vowed to serve the 12th Legion as repayment, yet Angron would in the end betray their trust. Purging much of Sarum of its inhabitants, and utilizing the Forge world as a forward operating base for his campaigns to destroy the Redjack cult. With the dawn of the Horus Heresy, Sarum as an act of survival declared for the traitor war effort. Transforming into a Hellforge, pledged to serve the World Eaters Legion. This wandering planetoid of the Golgothan Wastes is said to be ruled by Lamprey Maud Hellsmiths, manifesting at the whims of the Warp Ghost Warband and their spectral ferrymen. The Silent Forge of the Lana Rifts, specializing in the creation of Decimator-class demon engines. Within the region known as the Silent Abyss, this bastion of the Septral cult supply renegade warbands with such beasts in exchange for supplies. Temporia, whispered only by souls willing to invite madness into their minds. As described by the Oracle of Brass, this realm of the Dark Mechanicum is a maze of cogs and arcana, stretching into vast continents and mountain ranges of fell machinery. In fraud to the Changer of Ways, Siege, this Hellforge nestled within the heart of the Eye of Terror, supplied armaments to persecute invasions of the Cadian Gate, made from its logic-defying manufactorums. The Hellforge, known simply as Toil, pledged to serve the ambitions of its conqueror, the Demon Primarch of the Iron Warriors, Perturabo. Since 400.M32, this cursed planet inflicted with the 8 rituals of possession was bolstered by the contagions of Nurgle. Perturabo ceding the gifts of chaos for his own benefits. The Hellforge's manufactorums endured 8 days of planet-wide corruption until demonic machines and multi-legged walking cathedrals burst from below the surface, hunting down all semblances of flesh in deference to iron. Zana II, the last of the notable Hellforges which supply the forces of Chaos, heretical archivist of the Gethsemane Reclusiam, details the artifice of Hellblades and Helltalons as among its primary creations. Located within the Eye of Terror, far from the persecution of the Imperium, this Hellforge provides attack craft which have harried war zones across the galaxy, including infamous war zones such as the Siege of Rax. Reconstituting their authority around powerful figures who have earned their reputation. Whether a heretic shuns the Omnissiah in deference to the Pantheon of Chaos, or adopts a purely secular outlook on their experimentation, all that matters to the new Mechanicum is progress made through innovation. Exploiting every conceivable technological advantage, whether Xenos or human in origin, every heretic delights in their invention of components and artifice, which they shall barter for resources or incorporate into their own bodies. Mutating should they integrate materials tainted by the presence of Chaos, many a heretic dwarfs their Mechanicus contemporaries in scale and or potency, with not even Martian Magosses bearing armaments which could contest the overwhelming tech heresies which members of the Dark Mechanicum employ. Lacking a galaxy-spanning governing body, each band of heretics works autonomously without oversight from their distant peers, their many fiefdoms individually ruled by fallen Magos or Magi. Typically at war with one another, attempting to seize control of their rivals' domains. Some tech priests of the new Mechanicum work in solitude to prevent drawing the ire of their kin, but they are the exception. Harnessing the warp as not only an energy source, but also capturing entities as motive forces for their creations, the arcane knowledge guarded by such heretics are capable of transferring memories, imprisoning souls, and binding with artificial general intelligences. Always pursuing novel ideas, blinded by the notion that all that is new is superior against the tried and true. Discovering new ideas is the ambrosia of the Dark Mechanicum, as even useless endeavors provide understanding via vast experimentation. Raiding Imperial outposts to secure labor thralls, records of potential technology caches, and pillaging resources for their experiments. The only purpose of a heretic is to advance the sophistication of machinery and hoard vast bounties of forbidden knowledge. Often sacrificing their own bodies as parts for the magnum opus of their inventions. With so much of their form replaced with cybernetics, the most senior of fallen tech priests diverge greatly from what could be described as humanoid forms. Heretic savants, among the most flagrant in their twisting of the doctrines of the Omnissiah, often fallen explorator cadres are most susceptible to the allure of tech heresies due to their duty to locate and secure lost artifacts. Ambitious souls, obsessed with the pursuit of power, these defectors of the Adepts of Mars decry their confinement to approved technologies, and thus fall from the Omnissiah's grace, seeking emancipation from conformity. Corrupted body and soul by the influence of artifacts which ooze with malicious energies. Should a heretic savant be captured, their augmetics shall be torn from their flesh, as recompense for their sins made against the machine god. Arch-heretics, the most reviled of all the scions of the Dark Mechanicum, these inhabitants of the Halo Stars commit blasphemies in groups to better protect themselves from the persecution of Imperial task forces. Among the most skilled of all tech priests in their meddling with arcane technologies, their understanding of machinery is the envy of many a heretic, whose services are highly prized by spacefaring criminals. Lording over dispensable drug-addled mutants and mindless servitors, the infantry divisions of the Dark Skitarii are bolstered by Chaos Knights and even demons who pave the path to their master's ambition. Acquiring an arsenal of fell weaponry and devices as a result of their recreation of forbidden technology, the myriad paths to damnation laid forth by such heretics have given rise to abominations which harry the stars to this day. Dark tech, perverting the machine spirits of untold devices, the Inquisitors of the Mono-Dominance Creed procure such devices for study in order to better understand their enemies. For whilst the enemies of the Imperium rally to oppose the reign of the returned son of the Emperor, the Dark Mechanicum plots to capitalize on the Avenging Son's proclivity to innovate on the designs of his forebear. And in an age of continual technological degradation and fervent superstition, the true Mechanicum revel in their attempts to turn the grace of the Omnissiah's gifts upon the false idols of the machine god.
The path of the Omnissiah has left humanity dithering in the darkness, incapable of advancing on the paths of knowledge. Embracing the warp reveals technology that the primitives on Mars could never dream of wielding.
This has been a tale of the Great Imperium of Man, read by The Remembrancer. Innovation is the promise of unseen potential realized, its call drawing artificers of myriad creeds to its banner in efforts to improve the progress of civilization itself. Yet advancements made with shortcuts or made without ethical constraints are always a catastrophic gamble. The changes made by such technologies displacing many in efforts to achieve efficiency and plenty. Be wary of boons achieved with little toil at the expense of others, for their bounties are always dangerous, for when gained, their value is intrinsically diminished. So seek out advancements made not with ease nor exploitation, but commensurate toil and skill, for attainment without effort shall rob you of worth, far in excess of material concerns.